Hello again, it's Little Lotta. If you're wondering why the hell I have a horsey backside, it's because today I'm talking about one of my favorite movie slash TV genres that isn't horror, right? Fantasy is a genre that has always held a very special place in my heart. Like I said, it's one of my favorite genres to engage with that isn't horror. My first interactions with the fantasy series, like fantasy genre, is like Lord of the Rings and World of Warcraft. And like, especially with Lord of the Rings, it led a way for fantasy as a genre to really have like a chokehold on me, right? But like, that was my starting point. And ever since I've rewatched Lord of the Rings, I think like 7 times, I'm addicted. Right. My favorite part of most of the fantasy genre is really like the world building. And I honestly feel like, of course, like it affects most movies and shows regardless of genre. But like the world building can really make or break the mystique of the world. Like some examples I can think of right now for good fantasy, like with good world building, is like Wolfwalkers and Avatar The Last Airbender, right? So like Avatar, of course, everyone knows it's good. And the reason I bring these two up is so that I can compare them to my actual talking point for the video, which is mostly Bright, but like also featuring Onward, right? These are two similar yet very, very different movies, right? I say that because both have similar concepts in regard with being fantasy-based worlds that interact with modern aspects and modern technology. Right now, let me just say, I freaking love that in entertainment. It warms a very specific part of my soul to see that. But as you can imagine, I'm sure there aren't really a lot of these types of shows and movies because inherently it is a bit difficult to do. And if you get it wrong, you end up with Bright. I have a very frustrating relationship with the movie Bright. The reason it's frustrating is because I really want to love this movie, but there's just so much wrong with it. I often find myself like rewatching it just to think up scenarios that would make more sense for the story. So like, okay, so the story basically follows two police officers, right? A human and an orc, right? Jacoby and Warden are the two big characters. They're put together in a team, which makes Ward kind of angry because he was shot at, and to no fault of Jacoby, the man ended up getting away or whatever, right? They find some dirty man in the street, and oh look, in the back there's a fellow horse leg haver. Anyway, there's a group of evil elves they found out from this naked homeless man that essentially have a nuke in the form of a magic wand. There's a titty gun bar fight, and Ward finds out his magic at the end of the movie when he grabs the wand, right? A lot of just random shit that happens in this movie. The reason why I say my relationship with Bright is frustrating is because there's so much potential in this movie, but they didn't really think about the world's history, right? Like the world that they have created, they haven't thought about that history. Like the racism between humans makes a very little sense to me, right? Because while yes, even amongst black people, like here in South Africa, for example, there are many different tribes amongst the black community, like Tswana, Zulu, and Sotho, right? That all have disagreements and, conflicts and from time to time. But the second you involve another race in that equation, suddenly everyone is just black people. There's no, we're all just black. We're all just black against this other force now. Right? That's usually what ends up happening in these types of conflicts. Normally, people will go with what they're most familiar with, right? One race will stay with one race and the other race will stay with the other race. But that's why I find it so difficult to believe the racism in Bright, right? Which would not be a problem in a normal movie if Bright didn't decide to make the whole thing about racism. right? This would not even be a talking point if that wasn't Bright's themes and concepts. Like, I honestly feel like this concept would have lended itself better to like a show format like with Avatar, because Avatar had a lot of time to flesh out its characters, their motivations, and the world. Bright didn't have that, and so all of the world building was like just lazy exposition, right? I also feel like what they could have done was taken inspiration from real world history, but actually let their world's history interact with that real world history. They didn't do that. They just said real world events, like Shrek existing, for example. In the movie, it's like, oh, Shrek existed, whatever, right? But if you actually think about it, wouldn't Shrek be like one of those, I forgot what they're called, but you know those shows where the white actors would do blackface and like to promote stereotypes of black people, right? I forgot what they're called. But would Shrek not be that, right? Like, there's a lot of implications that this movie brings up that it just doesn't think about at all. So anyway, I digress. I say all of this to say that I definitely think that with the world they've presented us, that this war that they talk about that happened between the people would have definitely had a more like hectic effect on the type of racism and culture that we see in the movies, which wouldn't just be like orcs are like black people, kind of, right? It would be completely different. They should have given this more time to breathe. Like, honestly, they should have. Like, because that would have allowed this film to really like set its footing and not like just giving it more time. I think there wasn't a screenplay writer. I don't know why they didn't do that also, but you know, get more writers involved. Okay, now talking about Onward. Onward is everything that Bright isn't. You see the problem of our history being mixed up with the running world's history, right? And making the history and shit complicated. That is non-existent in Bright, right? In Onward, sorry. The premise is simple, the movie is very charming, and I hate that Bright did such a bad job, because I would love to see our world and aspects of our world through fantasy creatures, but Bright's failure makes it like very hard to do now. Like, I brought up Wolfwalkers and Avatar and even Onward because they had simpler premises that they built off of, right? Wolfwalkers has the Wolfwalkers, of course. When they sleep, they're wolves. When they're awake, they're people. If you get bit by a Wolfwalker, you now have a severe case of Wolfwalker. I'm sorry to tell you. Simple premise. Avatar, the 4 main nations with 4 main superpowers that's native to each, but there's one person who can control all 4, but then goes missing because he's a child and isn't ready for all that responsibility, and there's a war, shenanigans ensue. Simple enough, right? Onward is about 2 brothers that are trying to use magic to speak to their dead dad. The most simple. The difference between all 3 of these and Bright is how they built off of their original concept. Like, firstly, it's always a mistake to try and talk about a topic if you have not educated yourself on it, experienced it, or at least like thoroughly thought it out. That's the problem with Bright. It wasn't, I don't know why they didn't think it through a bit better. The reason I made this whole video is because I wanted to rant about wanting to love Bright. Like, the elf girl that randomly shows up in the middle of the movie, I don't even remember her name, is a nothing character. Like, I would have loved to see her character more, because she just kind of follows them around and then kind of becomes friends with them towards the end, maybe. The magic related special agents show up for like 5 minutes, which is a waste of that specific faction of the police. I would have loved to see, like, I would have loved to see more of them. And, you know, nothing happens with Elf Town. They just show us Elf Town and then they move on. Like, we could have skipped this. We could have given the screen time to someone else. Like, I really would love to see something like Bright, but actually like flushed out, because I fucking love the concept. And like I said earlier, I rewatch it just wishing that someone else sees the potential in this idea and makes art out of it. Like a show or a series of movies regarding the special magic division of the police, where they solve crimes and mysteries relating to magic and other races. You can do that. If you still want to make it about race, you can. You can still make it about race. You can, as long as you put more than one brain cell to work when you're having these discussions, and the events of your world could actually interact with the events of our world. You can also do that, as long as you are making it realistic. Not like, it doesn't have to be fully realistic, but realistic in the sense of how individuals would actually act. Like, if you set up someone as being snobby, you have to have them be snobby. Like, the whole point of the story of the war is that random orc dude who was a farmer brought everyone together. But people are so like still hyper, like there's that good one mentality, right, amongst the people. They'd be like, no, but you're one of the good orcs. There'd be that mentality 100%. I don't know why it doesn't show up in the movie. Even if you want to keep the story like about cops, right, you want to keep it Ward and Jacoby, right, you can do that. Even with the police, right, even if you don't want to have tough discussions, no one said you have to talk about race. Nobody said that, right? If you wanted to just make it two police in a fantasy world that are busting cases and solving crimes and stuff like that, that would be so fucking fun. Just like, I would love to see a story where, I don't know, a mermaid is a struggling heroin addict. Like, that would be so interesting to watch, right? Or like, for me personally, hear me out, right? I was thinking like a medical drama reality TV show type thing. Maybe I'm just talking nonsense, but like a show where it's like, you know, like you see on TLC. I'm talking like Dr. Pimple Popper / My Feet is Killing Me / Snakes in the City / Grey's Anatomy type thing, right? There's so much you can fucking do with this concept that Bright has decided to butcher. Okay, so anyway, I'm done ranting. And if you have any opinions about the movie or this video, let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching.